When Abner died, King David mourned for him, and among the words he offered were these: "Do you not know that a great prince in Israel has fallen?" That's the way I feel about Bishop John Yambasu. I am mourning his death, but the opportunity to say a few words about him is a gift to me, and I hope also to those who hear it. Because John Yambasu is one of the easiest people not only to get along with, but to talk about. He was consistent in every way, in his love for the Lord, his love for his family, his love for the United Methodist Church, his love for his beloved country, Sierra Leone, his love for the mission of the church. And so I want to say that he had a consistency in his life that all of us should strive for. You never knew not where John Yambasu was on any particular matter, and where he stood on a matter did not put him in opposition to you as a fellow Christian, as a fellow human being. So I segue to saying that he was a natural bridge builder in a world of brokenness and pain where people spend more time and energy building walls. John Yambasu saw every wall and turned it on its side, even if it crumbled in its falling, and out of its pieces, he built bridges. He was, and I conclude with this, a man of God who was completely without deceit and without guile, and filled only with love, compassion, and hope. Rest in peace, rest in power, Bishop John Yambasu.
Well, Isaiah 42 speaks to me very clearly on this, where, God says, I will be with you no matter what. You will walk through the water and you will never be drowned. You walk through the fire and the heat will not scorch you.
John K. Yambasu was born in poverty in southern Sierra Leone.
Coming from Africa, and for that matter from a poor family background, I know through and through what poverty is. I have slept with it, and I have woken up with it. As a child, I went to school with tattered uniforms and often without shoes. I was severally driven from school for non-payment of fees. Countless times I went to bed without food. As a missionary working in sub-Saharan Africa, I have not only experienced poverty, but for almost 10 years I had to wrestle with it. Today, as bishop of the church and working in my own home country, Sierra Leone, I live side by side with poverty and misery.
He grew up attending United Methodist mission schools, where he learned about God and came to have a deep, abiding love for the United Methodist Church. Throughout his life, before he was bishop, he had many titles: teacher, deacon, elder, missionary, community leader. But the one title he most cherished was beloved child of God.
So I remember one of my first encounters with Bishop John Yambasu. It's my first trip to Freetown, and you land in one of those old helicopters, and we got out of the helicopter. I was traveling with a team for Imagine No Malaria, and there, almost on the tarmac, is John Yambasu waiting for us. He made sure that we had everything we needed. He got our luggage and we went over to Freetown. I learned on this trip that John Yambasu was more than a pastor. He was more than a bishop. He was a statesman. Everywhere we went, he knew everyone and everyone knew him. And when we gathered for worship, that morning, I looked around and I also realized that day that he was an ecumenical leader. So we were there representing the United Methodist Church. Every possible denomination, every faith community was represented at this worship service. The imam, the tribal leaders, everyone was a part of this service. And John Yambasu led that service. He was a statesman in every stretch of your imagination, and he was a pastor to all of those people everywhere we went. Hospitals we visited, schools where we went, everywhere we went. You could see that John Yambasu had poured his heart into every single one of those persons, not just the place, but the people. I learned more on that trip about what it means to be a bishop. I wasn't a bishop yet, but I remember watching Bishop John Yambasu and understanding those words in the Book of Discipline when it says that we are responsible for the temporal and spiritual oversight of the church. John Yambasu taught me that. He taught me what it means to be a faith leader, not just in the United Methodist Church, but a faith leader in all parts of the community, all parts of God's kingdom. So I'm thankful for the mentor that I had in Bishop John Yambasu, for his teaching by living, teaching by being an example, and his gentle and joyous spirit always.
He was ordained a United Methodist deacon in 1987, an elder in 1990. In the fall of 1999, the Reverend Yambasu traveled to the United States with a fervent hope of finding help for children who were orphaned or abandoned during the long Civil War in his country. He founded the Child Rescue Center in Sierra Leone, serving as its executive director until he became a regional missionary in 2000. His experience as a missionary taught him how crucial health is in the life of any nation. He believed good health was key to evangelism.
I did that intentionally because from my experience as a missionary, 10 years in Sub-Saharan Africa, I have realized how very critical and crucial health is in the life of any nation. Especially from the point of us coming from war in the last 10 years, where so many structures were destroyed. You cannot get a child to go to school when that child is not healthy. You cannot have a teacher to be an effective teacher when the teacher is not healthy. And so I believe that for us to have all of these others fall in place, the very first thing we have to do is to ensure that we provide health for our people.
A graduate of Candler School of Theology in Atlanta, John Yambasu taught in many schools, including the denomination's Hartford School for Girls in Moyomba. He was the Sierra Leone Conference's Director of Christian Education and Youth Ministries. He also had a bachelor's degree in agriculture from Njala University College in Sierra Leone. Yambasu was elected a bishop of the United Methodist Church in 2008 and installed in 2009.
The United Methodist Church, my friends, is called to go out. And I want somebody to say, go out. Go out. Yes, church, we are called to go out. Go out of the four walls of our churches. Go out of our pews. Go out of our comfort zones. Go outside of ourselves. Go into our neighborhoods, into the world. Let the world become our parish. Go and rescue the perishing. Go and care for the dying.
Bishop Yambasu was president of the Sierra Leone Council of Churches, He provided critical leadership during the deadly 2014 to 2016 Ebola outbreak that killed more than 11,000 people in Sierra Leone, Liberia, and Guinea, and the 2017 landslide that killed hundreds after torrential rains and flooding in Freetown. His calm, uniting presence and diplomatic leadership allowed him to negotiate the end of a 12-year schism within the Burundi Church in 2018. New York Conference Bishop Thomas Bickerton came to know Bishop Yambasu through their work together on imaginal malaria, a United Methodist effort credited with saving many lives in Africa.
Our mutual love for mission drew us together as we walked the countryside and city streets of Sierra Leone side by side and shared ministry in significant ways on significant occasions. Whether it was our mutual passion to eradicate malaria through Imagine No Malaria, our service together in mission on the General Board of Global Ministries, our times of strategizing in the Council of Bishops, or the countless meals and conversations that we shared together, I always knew that I had a soulmate of similar calling. Bishop Yambasu had this amazing ability to capitalize on the moments presented to him. You know, when laughter was appropriate, his was among the heartiest. When serious reflection was in order, his face revealed an unparalleled intensity. When proclamation was needed, he was unafraid to make his voice known. And when tears were shed, it revealed a true compassion and love for all. Our most recent work together centered on the mediation team and the work around the protocol. Bishop Yambasu had a deep and uncompromising love for the church. It was his ultimate desire to see us collaborate and respect one another. John was a bridge builder who ultimately walked on the bridges he helped build to demonstrate that they were sturdy and dependable. For as long as I have memory, I will recall how special it was to call John Yambasu my friend. And for years to come, in my prayers, I will give God thanks for the way that we were able to see the face of God in the life and witness of this faithful servant of Christ. How appropriate it is to simply say, "Well done, good and faithful servant."
After the contentious 2019 General Conference in St. Louis failed to resolve the denomination's divisions over LGBTQ inclusion, Bishop Yambasu arranged a meeting in Chicago of theological centrists, traditionalists, and progressives. From this came the creation of a mediation team and difficult closed-door negotiations that led to the protocol of reconciliation and grace through separation.
What those prayer moments were opportunities for the entire team to recognize that as human beings, we had limitations and that we could not process all of this without the presence of God's Holy Spirit among us. And so we spend some time praying. Sometimes we come to an almost deadlock, and we will just pause for a while and ask for God's direction. We are at a time when we're walking through turbulent waters as a church. We are at a time when we're walking through fire, through difficulties. But I remain very much convinced and persuaded that God is still with us. And this is what I've kept on telling my colleagues on the table, that this is God's church. It's not our church. And whatever happens, God is going to take his church to the place where he wants his church to be.
More recently, Bishop Yambasu again called on churches to take action to fight COVID-19.
We are a people of hope. We are a people of hope. And I believe that, like St. Paul would say to the church in Corinth, 2 Corinthians, he would say, we are troubled but not destroyed. We are pushed down on every side, but we are not crushed. I believe the church will survive the coronavirus. Our nations of the world will survive the coronavirus, and God is going to bring back his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. That's what we hope on, and that's the trust that we have.
Bishop Yambasu was president of the Africa College of Bishops and had just been selected as Africa University Chancellor, a United Methodist University in Zimbabwe.
So it's really not about us, it's about we saying to God, here are we, Lord, use us, send us, and use us to the best of your ability for the good of your church.
There's a giant hole in many of our hearts this day. But the memories of John Yambasu and his love for the church and his love for God and God's people fills that space. So well done, my friend. Well done, good and faithful servant. Well done.
Bishop John K. Yambasu is survived by his wife, Millicent, and their 6 children, Rebecca, Adama, John, Emmanuel, Elizabeth, and Janet.